All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you first of all, thank Danny for the invitation, thank the conference organizers for the invitation. My name is Ruomeng. I'm from the Emory University Goethe Business School. And today I'm going to talk about competing in delivery quality in online retail space, in particular on retail platforms. And in this research, we're going to focus on the retail, the e-commerce space. And if you think about many retailers, Amazon, Walmart, to smaller online retailers, have been enhancing their delivery options. But the question is, to what extent do customers care about delivery quality? To what extent a good logistics service matters to consumers' purchasing decisions? And is there value? Is it worth it to try to compete in delivery quality? And this is the kind of question that I'm going to answer in this research. So first, I'm going to give you just first the broad idea, the broad picture of logistics, of delivery. So logistics is an important part of daily operations. It involves managing warehouses and transporting products from warehouses to consumers. And in terms of just the cost itself, logistics cost is huge. For example, in the U.S., it's $1.39 trillion per year, and in China, it's $1.7 trillion per year, the cost. Because the research I want to talk about covers China's e-commerce market, so I will always show the statistics across both countries. And the costs account for a significant portion of countries' GDPs. For example, U.S., China, 7.5%, 15% is huge. So we can see logistics is an important part of the economy and also for companies as well, especially in the retail space. And also logistics is the core of operations. Remember, I'm from the operations side. So I want to study what's the value of this critical component. So James Heskett once wrote a very interesting HBR article titled Logistics Essential to Strategy. So he says in the article that logistics can spell the difference between success and failure in businesses. And he highlights a key point that companies should factor logistics into the integral design of their strategy. It should not only treat it as a backstage cost, but a front stage revenue generator. That is his point. And also, if you think about in a retail space, logistics is such a critical component. Think about a customer's life cycle when they purchase online, right? Customers first become aware of a brand, and then they search and compare the product online before they place an order. And delivery is the time point they get to receive the physical product for the first time and get to experience the service. So delivering products to customers in a timely and reliable manner matters to consumers. It can enhance their experience and improve a company's retention rate and profitability. So this is the idea and motivation of our research. But quantifying this value, the value of logistics or value of delivery quality to consumers in the online retail space is challenging because it is often too costly or impossible for companies to manipulate or change the service level at the company-wide or platform-wide level at the risk of losing billions of dollars. So that's why in this research, we're going to take advantage of an exogenous shock that happened between two business giants in China. So I talked with the chief strategy officer of SF Express last year, and this is what she told me. So SF Express is the largest logistics company, delivery companies, just like UPS in the U.S. And even UPS, they were having a difficult time in pinpointing their exact value to retail platforms. To quantify their value. So she told me that we would love to know how much our high quality is worth. And this motivates my research. So the research exact paper that I'm going to talk about is called Value of High Quality Logistics, Evidence from a Clash Between SF Express and Alibaba. SF Express, we all know, the largest private delivery company in China, UPS in China, and Alibaba, the largest retail platform, not only in China, but also in the world as well. So these two companies got into a fight in 2017, resulting that SF Express being removed as a shipping option from Alibaba's retail platform for 42 hours. I'm going to study this exogenous shock, and then evaluate what is the impact of that to the platform, to the retail platform, and how do consumers react to the removal of an extremely high-quality delivery option on a retail platform. And I guarantee you that after my talk, You all become experts in China's e-commerce market because this story involves all the parties. The retail platforms, the delivery companies, the merchants, the consumers, and the Chinese government played a little bit of role as well. Yes. There are several dimensions to think about this question. The first is the scale. First of all, the scale at Alibaba, I'm going to introduce the size of the Alibaba is, for example, 3 times as large as Amazon. So in terms of the scale, we think we study a context with a huge economy of scale, so that perhaps what we find can be generalized in some other contexts. But secondly, if you think about another dimension is the timeline, right? Our study is kind of a short period. The shock. If the shock lasts longer, what would be the impact? The answer is we're not sure. Probably the effect size would be smaller. We talk about China's e-commerce market, right? And speaking of China's e-commerce market, the size of the e-commerce market is huge. It's almost its equivalent size as the U.S. market. And within China's e-commerce market, Alibaba is the biggest player. And it accounts for a market share of 58%, Alibaba's a market share, followed by JD.com, 16%. So Alibaba and JD together, they account for like 80% of market share in China. So we can think of China's e-commerce market as a duopoly, a market structure. And Alibaba, let's take a look at these two companies. We talk about Alibaba and SF Express. What happened between the two and what are they about? So Alibaba, the largest retail platform with 547 billion worth of transactions, 3 times as large as Amazon's sales volume, was in 2017. And Alibaba offers a large variety of products to their customers, 800 million product SKUs. Amazon, 560 mil SKUs. And SF Express, it's the largest private logistics provider. It's very much like UPS in US, with 3 billion shipments in 2017. And SF Express is well known, is best known for its best service quality in a lot of dimensions, and has been ranking the first in customer satisfaction in service quality for 9 consecutive years from 2009 to 2018. And this survey was done by the Chinese government. It was a very authoritative source. And it's been ranking the first as the best along a lot of dimensions. For example, speed, reliability, how professional they are in their picks ups and drop offs. And I've talked with many delivery companies in China, and all of them agreed, even the second place, agreed that SF Express is the best in China and is far better than the second place. So which is a little bit different than the U.S. market. If I ask you who's the best in the U.S., probably you would think UPS and FedEx. They're equally good. But not the case in China. SF Express is the best and it's far better. For example, 50% faster than public delivery companies and 20% faster than the private carriers. And what's the relationship between Alibaba and SF Express? It's sort of like Amazon and UPS, but with some differences. So here's the difference. To answer Denny's earlier question, Alibaba is a pure retail platform, unlike Amazon, half and half. It's a pure platform. Over 99.9% of their sales come from third-party merchants. And these merchants are small-sized or mid-sized small business merchants. And these third-party merchants have 2 ways to manage their logistics. The first is they can self-manage their inventory. They have their own warehouses. And whenever receive an order from Alibaba's platform, they're going to use a third-party carrier to ship out this product to their customers. Okay? And for this first option, the merchants, third-party merchants, have the flexibility, and the customers who buy from them have the flexibility and freedom to choose from any of the third-party carriers out there. And SF Express is one of the third-party carriers on Alibaba. It's one of the biggest ones. It's top 5 carriers. And over 85% or maybe 90% of the merchants would choose this first option, self-managing, use third-party carriers. And the rest of the merchants would use the second option, which is to dedicate their entire logistics to Alibaba's own logistics system, which is Cainiao, which they call it. So Alibaba founded Cainiao in 2013 as their own logistic system. But if the merchant chooses this option, the second Cainiao option, they can only use this option. They cannot choose from any of the other third-party carriers. Okay? They don't have the flexibility and freedom. So this is the structure of how it works. So we see that Alibaba and SF Express, they have been quite close partners. But suddenly something happened in June 2017, resulted that SF Express being removed as a shipping option from Alibaba's platform for 42 hours. So let's see what happened. So you know what's funny? 菜鸟, these two words in Chinese mean rookie. But very unlike its name, it is quite a bully in the market. The story all started with Alibaba and Cainiao started to ask Hivebox, which is SF's subsidiary company, to share Hivebox all of their detailed parcel information with Alibaba and Cainiao. So this is Hivebox picture that I took in last December when I was in Beijing, China, my home, outside my home. So it's like Amazon Locker, where carriers can temporarily stock their packages in, and customers can go and pick it up. So the reason that you can think Alibaba asked Hivebox to share all of their detailed parcel information with Alibaba, even if it's not stocked by Alibaba. Alibaba's total order quantity, order parcels account for less than 10 or 5% of Hivebox total, sales or their processings. But they force Hivebox, and of course Hivebox and SF Express would say, "I'm not going to share that with you." And also they were fighting over one thing: is who should be the one who contact consumers when the package arrives. The ownership to contact consumers. So they were fighting that, and of course SF Express and Hivebox said that we're not going to share that information, the data with you, and been demanding that. And in 2017, in May, Alibaba and Cainiao demanded again. But I guess this time they rubbed SF in the wrong way, so that SF on June 1st, morning time, SF unexpectedly cut off Cainiao and Alibaba's access to all of this data. And as a prompt response, Alibaba decided to remove SF as a shipping option from Alibaba's retail platform at 6 p.m. sharp. And by announcing that on Bloomberg News, that we're surprised and disappointed by SF's abrupt action to stop providing the information, and we have no choice but to remove SF as a shipping option. Okay? And the story hasn't ended yet. Soon afterwards, the Chinese government stepped in, and they evaluated the situation. And the State Post Bureau of China flew the head of all of these companies, the C-levels, to Beijing at 3 a.m. on June 3rd. Had a meeting with them and told them that, guys, you have to stop this fight. It doesn't look good. And for the sake of market order and consumer welfare, you have to stop this. And I assure you cannot find this information online in public news. I had this information by calling, and I talked with the CEO of Hivebox, and he told me he was there in Beijing at 3 a.m. in the morning. So forcing them to stop this fight. So that's why on June 3rd, 12 p.m., noon, sharp, full collaboration was resumed between Alibaba and SF Express. And this entire event lasted for 42 hours. And this is what we call the clash between the two. Because for Hivebox is a locker where any of the carriers would temporarily stock their packages at Hivebox, right? And Alibaba's orders only account for less than, say, 5% of Hivebox's total orders. But Alibaba wants to have Hivebox all of their order information, which is, I know, from lawyers' perspective, is ridiculous, right? You would never imagine something like this to happen in the U.S. Totally bully, right, from what Alibaba has been doing. And you know why they want that information? To optimize Cainiao's own logistics system. See how ridiculous. They're requesting, of course, SF wouldn't agree to share that information. Okay. So let's see from consumers' perspective, how do they feel the difference? The first remember that we have the type of merchants who choose not to use Cainiao, who use third-party carriers, right? They have the flexibility and freedom to choose from any of the third-party carriers. And we have Cainiao merchants who only have the Cainiao delivery option, right? So after this clash, what happened was that all of the non-Cainiao merchants were potentially affected because SF Express, this option was removed from Alibaba's system. And the Cainiao merchants were not affected at all. So clearly, we have a treatment group, we call them the treatment group, that were impacted by this clash. And we have a group of products, the control group, that were not impacted by this shock, this clash. And we do have their performance prior and after this clash. So this which calls for a difference in differences identification. And our identification setting is quite clean in the sense that both how it happened and how it ended the event was exogenous. Nobody expected that to happen, and how it ended was mandated by the Chinese government. And it happened really short, which ruled out the possibility for Alibaba to react strategically, could result in a confounding factor. And because SF has the best quality and reputation, so its drop really caused a decline in service quality on Alibaba's platform. According to our back-of-envelope calculation, we use the difference also here. We figure out that SF Express is about 10 to 13 hours faster than the average delivery speed on Alibaba. So it's really faster than the other carriers. Oh, let me tell you what happened. How it started was quite silly. Even during those 42 hours, people had no clue what happened. It all started with engineers, data scientists fighting with each other at SF Express and Alibaba, the really low level. I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to cut this data port so that you won't have access to our data. So those little events got escalated into this big event. So when this first happened, none of the director or VP upper level had no clue what happened. So they decided to cut off, didn't strategically plan anything, signing on Alibaba to this event. And according to my conversations with their executives. And one of the reasons is that they evaluate that, for example, farmers' case, they find that, for example, after fruits are being harvested, it should be shipped to consumers within 24 or 48 hours, otherwise it will go bad. And they find only SF Express is able to do that. So that removal of SF Express really harm not only consumers, but farmers as well. So that's why Chinese go. And also it was not good. Like the two biggest companies in China are fighting. It doesn't look good for reputation-wise. So what we did is we studied 130,000 representative SKUs on Alibaba. And we studied their associated 14 million transactions around the clash over 20 days. This is the data set, and this is our finding. Let me just directly show you the figure, what we find. The y-axis is hourly sales. The x-axis is time. And you can see there are two lines here. Between these two lines, it's the 42 hours during the clash. This is before, this is after, and the dashed green line is the treatment group that were affected. The red line is the control group that were not affected. Clearly, you can see a sharp drop during the clash and was resumed right after, right? So it shows immediately there's a story there. That the platform sales were negatively impacted by the removal of a high-quality logistics option. And first time I found this result, I texted this result to the chief strategy officer of SF Express. She was super happy. She was so excited. And I always tell this joke. We've known each other for a while. She never asked me for dinner, and she lived in Atlanta. But immediately I texted her this result. She texted me back and said, Ruomeng, let's have dinner, and you can explain the results to me. And she said she will like to pass this result to the founder and CEO of SF Express. She's super, super happy to see these results. Right, according to the difference specification. And we find that this drop caused a 14% drop on Alibaba's platform sales, which is huge, right, which is a huge impact on Alibaba. So what's the punchline here? Punchline is delivery quality plays such a huge role. It's a competitive priority. It's an order winner. And when you don't care about it, when you don't manage it well, it can be a huge order loser. Okay? Now the question is, all right, what happened to those lost customers? Do they leave? Would they just postpone their purchase? If postponing, it's not a big deal, right? It's not the worst case. But Alibaba's worst nightmare would be what? These customers switched to purchase from Alibaba's competitor. So then what we did is we asked Baidu, which is the Google of US, Baidu of the largest search engine in China, to share with us all of the key words associated with this event around this period. And we did also a differences analysis, and we searched for the keyword JD delivery. And we also did the analysis here. We found an abnormal increase in the search word, 23% in the keyword for JD delivery. And you know who JD is, right? The second biggest player, Alibaba's key competitor. And this means that for Alibaba's buyer, they're not satisfied with the delivery quality on Alibaba, and they search online for JD delivery quality, and they switched maybe to JD to make the final purchase. So they left the platform, and they didn't come back. Wesley. So first of all, the vacuum, what caused the vacuum is because of the capacity, right? Because you're saying that when SF Express is gone, the other carriers, there are hundreds of carriers in China. And their capacity the capacity there is huge enough to cover SF's delivery capacity. And this is how it works, because I lack some of the details. a merchant, third-party merchant, would usually sign a long-term contract with two or three carriers, and these names were listed on Alibaba's product webpage. So even SF Express, this option was gone. It's not the only option. Always they sign with 2 or 3. When SF Express is gone, I could have just used something else, right? If I don't care. For customers who don't even care, it's up to the merchants to choose. But for my personal purchase experience, I've requested the seller to use SF Express particularly twice. Yeah, because there was a time constraint. June 1st. What happened on June 1st? Promotions, right? The June 18th big promotion period. They all started at June 1st. So I think SF Express did that on purpose. On June 1st, I'm going to cut you off because I'm going to hurt your business. So the green line would have increased in the same way as the control group, right? But later on, we did some analysis to rule out any of the confounding factors that caused by different promotions across these two groups. So promotions are fine as long as the promotion depth is the same across these two groups. And we did the difference analysis. It's same. It's the same across the treatment and control group. The first 3 days, the promotion usually is big, like a little bigger. They will absorb the demand, the spike in demand. And see, this is June 18th, not June 18th. If I continue to draw it, you can see an increase in the trend as well. But I stopped there. I don't want to contaminate my analysis with whatever the big promotion that is going to happen. All right, so I'm going to skip how it impacts sales dispersion. But this probably could answer some of your early questions. For example, we also did a moderating analysis here and find that the delivery quality, this clash, impacted what kind of products more. And we find that, first of all, the popular items, the head products versus long tail, they were more adversely affected by this clash because they face much more intense competitions. And those customers can easily switch to other competitors. So they were much more adversely impacted by this clash. And which echoes the Porter's differentiation strategy, right? Having differentiation, in this case, having more long tails in your system could shield your companies from direct competitions. And we also find that more expensive products are more adversely affected, which makes sense, right? I'm buying something expensive. I would like to have SF Express to protect my valuable purchases. And last but not least, we find products are less discounted, are more adversely affected, less price markdown. Right? Because if you offer me a big deal, I'm okay with the mediocre delivery, but not the other way around. There are strategic substitutes. So just to conclude, bunch of robustness check, and to just conclude, what's our punchline here is that delivery quality here can be a huge order winner, competitive priorities that online retail platforms should carefully think about. And we explain characteristics, context, that where you should focus more investment, prioritize your investment in delivery quality, logistic quality. Okay?